Good evening, ladies. Athena has been one of the best performing tokens over the last couple of months. It's 3x'd since like July, since the bottom's there, and it's been an absolute ripper. I want to go through exactly why it's been performing so well, if it can continue performing so well, some other bullish propaganda about Ethereum, apart from that news, and some potential risks and drawbacks with Athena, and a general overview on the project. So with all that said, let's dive straight into the video. So first of all, what exactly is Athena? If you don't know, I'm going to explain briefly. If not, you can fast forward. So basically, Athena is a decentralized stablecoin with no USDC backing it, not like fully backing it. The way it works is it essentially is using the strategy that I've been talking about in the last few videos, like the Hyperliquid strategy that I've been talking about to get great yield. Basically, longing the spot of a token and shorting the perp of the same token. So you're delta neutral hedged either way. So you're holding a spot token. Let's say you're holding, in Athena's case, 1 Ethereum spot, and you're also shorting 1 Ethereum of the perp. So in this way, you're delta neutral. So in this way, you're obviously delta neutral. So you can create a stable coin with that delta neutrality. On top of that, you can get the staking yield from the Ethereum, and you can also get the perp funding yield from shorting Ethereum. So you're delta neutral hedged. So you're shorting Ethereum, which like the APY is on the perp is very variable, but that can be like anywhere from like 5% or even negative. But let's say on average, it's like 10%, maybe sometimes really, really high, like 20%. And then the staking yield, which is like, a few percent as well. You add those together and you get a really, really nice yield. At the moment, Athena is making about 10% yield. And the attractive thing about that is if you staked your USDE, which is Athena's stablecoin, you can get this 10% yield right into your wallet. So that's like the differentiator of Athena from USDC and USDT, where you don't get that kind of risk-free or automatic yield just for holding this token. So that's what staked USDE allows you to do. So that's the stable coin. USDE is the stable coin. SUSDE is the staked stable coin. And Athena, the ENA token, which we're kind of talking about mostly today, is the governance token, which hopefully will, well, it already does get some revenue and some buybacks, but hopefully further down the line is going to be like much more significant buybacks and a revenue flywheel, because that's obviously going to be hugely bullish for the price. Because that's kind of, at the moment, all the best performing tokens are ones that are generating revenue and sharing that with the token holders. Obviously, example, of course, is Hyperliquid. Okay, so why has Athena been performing well, and why does it look like it could continue to perform well? There's a few reasons for that. I'm just going to give a number of reasons in no particular order. The first reason is that people are anticipating that the Fed is going to cut rates. Why is this bullish for Athena? So when the Fed cuts rates, it means people can't earn good yield holding bonds, and USDC earns less money, USDT earns less money. So potentially like the yields that you get on chain are going to be less, but the yields from Athena are going to be unaffected from the Fed funds rate dropping. It doesn't affect directly Athena's yield, because the Ethereum staking yield and the perp futures yield is completely independent from the Fed funds rate. Like actually the Fed dropping rates is probably going to increase the perp funding yield, because when the Fed cuts rates, usually everything goes a bit bullish and there's potentially some mania to come, and people are going to pay even more to go leverage long on Ethereum. So people are anticipating Fed cutting rates, going to be bullish for Athena because of that. The other big news is that there's a digital asset treasury company being started up for like basically buying Athena tokens. So that's the big news about Athena, and we're going to go into a lot more detail about how exactly that's going to be structured and how bullish that is for the Athena token. But there's a new Athena, like a micro strategy for Athena coming out, and it's going to be called Stablecoin X is going to be the name of the company, which is, you know, just the name of that is incredibly bullish. We saw how like crazy TradFi aped into the Circle IPO. I think it went almost 10x. It was like 8x when it IPO'd. So TradFi are going to be like, oh, Stablecoin X company, this is live. I can buy this in my brokerage account. It's an actual stablecoin company. It has the TVL is really, really high. It's well respected. It's like making a lot of money, and you know, it's been around for a couple of years and it's well audited and stuff. Probably like that's a bullish catalyst. But we're gonna go deeper into the financials of how much Stablecoin X is actually going to be buying from Athena, because it's actually quite a lot, and that's basically the main reason in the short term why Athena has been performing so well. On top of that, Athena has secured massive partnerships all throughout the DeFi landscape with Pendle, Aave, even on like centralized exchanges. They have a big partnership with Bybit. So like they're well connected all throughout DeFi and CeFi. Athena is starting to become like the way USDT and USDC is entrenched throughout CeFi and DeFi. Athena is getting there as well, which is great, obviously, for them. So as you can see, Athena is hitting all the main narrative points for this cycle. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. First of all, they're hitting the biggest narrative, or one of the biggest narratives of the cycle, of course, is stablecoins. They're also hitting the digital asset treasury narrative. So stuff like MicroStrategy and all the digital asset treasury companies, which have been just going crazy recently. They're hitting that. And they're hitting DeFi, like the DeFi renaissance, which isn't as much of a narrative, but it's still one of the hotter narratives in crypto at the moment, in my opinion, because Athena is so entrenched. And we'll talk about like some things that are happening with DeFi in relation to Athena as well. So let's have a look at the fundamentals for Athena. So this is the total USDE, which is Athena's stablecoin. And as you can see, over the last couple of years, it's just been growing. And then very recently, it just exploded. Basically doubled within like a month. I'll show you why as well. And here is the same chart as well, but again, I've added on the yield. So the pink line here is the average yield that staked USDE earns. So basically the yield people are getting for holding staked USDE. And if you want to get this yield yourself, I'll leave the link in the description. You can deposit onto the Athena website and start getting this yield yourself on a stable coin, like 10%. And you can see on average it's like 7%, 8%. Sometimes it gets up to like 20, even higher. At the moment, it's about 10%, which is pretty good yield. When you consider like, you know, like TradFi yields, it's not absolutely insane yield, but it's, you know, safe. Not, I wouldn't say regulated, but safe, audited, crypto friendly, been around for a few years. You know, you're going to get that yield. So Athena obviously earns revenue from all this stake USDE. A lot of that earns a lot of fees from that stake USDE. All of those fees are paid back to the stakers. So like basically the rewards that they earn from staking Ethereum and the perp leverage futures funding rates that they earn, that's obviously shared with like 80% of the revenue that they earn, the fees that they charge and the fees that they earn, 80% is given back to the staked USDE. So that's where the 10% yield is coming from. The other 20% is basically Athena's revenue. Like that's how much they're earning. At the moment, they're not using this to buy back Athena tokens. They're just focusing on trying to grow the amount of USDE supply and trying to become a bigger company. So they're not sharing this revenue yet, but there are hints, and there are probably at some point down the line, they are going to start sharing this revenue, and it's quite significant revenue. So you can see the fees that they're earning is annualized 600 million, and the revenue, so that's what Athena is actually keeping for themselves on an annualized basis, is 150 million. So nothing to sneeze at. Like for comparison, I think Hyperliquid on an annualized basis is making anywhere from 500 million to 2 billion. Maybe on a crazy day, it might earn a little bit more annually. Pump Fun about 700 million, about a billion, depending on the month. I think Athena's revenue is probably a little bit more sticky than something like Pump Fun. So that's just something to be aware of, like just so you get a kind of a idea of the order of magnitude. So it's about like a tenth the size, the revenue that Hyperliquid's earning, and maybe like a quarter what Pump is earning, something like that. The revenue that Athena's earning for itself. Eventually, that will be shared with Athena holders. So just so you get an idea of the scale or the speed of how fast this revenue is growing. So this chart doesn't really show it that well, but they were the second fastest crypto protocol to reach $100 million of revenue. Second to, of course, Pump Fun. So absolutely exploding in revenue. Obviously, there's not really that much that's going to stop this growth. It kind of just looks like this revenue is only going to increase. And from what I've seen, from what I've read, it's very likely that they're going to turn on a fee switch in the not too distant future. There's just a few things holding them back, but I believe that they will, and that's going to be a very bullish catalyst when they do. But potentially you want to wait until that actually happens, but you know, you can probably front run that news. But I can see the USDE supply, it's already 9 billion. I could see that doubling, you know, over the next year easily. Athena, you can see, is one of the highest revenue earning companies per employee, 46 million. I think, you know, Tether, oh my God, it's even higher than Tether now. So that's absolutely insane. So they make $46 million per full-time employee. Yeah, crazy. Actually, to add on to that, if you do want to get the Athena yield, so I would only do this if you have a lot of stables that you want to earn yield on. You can throw it into staked USDE, start getting that yield, and it's likely that you're going to be eligible for the next airdrop. So anyone who participated in the previous campaigns got an airdrop. So you can kind of think of it as an extra boost to that 10% yield. I don't know how much it's going to be or if it's going to be a big airdrop, but something to keep in mind. So we are going to talk about the digital asset treasury company, which is starting for Athena. But one of the other reasons that the USDE supply has absolutely exploded is because of new products brought out by Aave and particularly Pendle. And basically what Pendle's doing is, because as you know, as I explained, the yield that you're getting on Athena is variable. It depends how much people are paying for Ethereum funding. Like if the market's exploding, then people are going to don't mind paying high funding in order to long Ethereum. But if the market's going down or if it's going sideways, maybe people aren't paying as much. So the yield, that's why you see that pink yield is like all over the place. So basically with Pendle now, I'm not going to go into the specifics of how it works because it's a bit complicated. It's like a bond that's about to expire. But basically, bottom line is Pendle have created a product where you can get a fixed yield using USDE. So you can deposit into Pendle and you're going to get a fixed yield over time. So you might not get the full like average yield that you would have got if you just held a variable rate, but you might get a little bit less, but you still know for a fact that in 3 months you're going to acquire this much yield on your USDE. So what people are doing now is, because you're getting higher yield, let's say you're getting 10% yield on Pendle for USDE, but you can borrow USDC for like 6% or 8%. People are just like borrowing USDC, swapping it into USDE, guaranteed 10% yield on USDE and Pendle, borrowing against that, swapping it back into USDE, and just basically looping that. And that's why the TVL of USDE has absolutely exploded, because people are just like looping this up. And obviously you can imagine that there's going to be a little bit of risk involved in this. Although like you can look into it, it's not like crazy risky, because the USDE shouldn't depeg from USDC because it's tied to USDT in a certain way. Like Aave basically says that USDE is USDT on their Oracle. So it basically means that it can't really depeg because they're the same thing. That has dramatically lowered the risk, but obviously it does sound a little bit degen just doing this looping strategy. You can borrow 93% against your state USDE to borrow USDT or USDC, and then just keep doing that to basically bump up the APY that you're getting. And here you can see kind of this is how much you would have earned over the last 1 year doing this strategy. And as you can see, it's very highly positive over the last 6 months or so doing this 10x strategy, 10x levered, where you're looping it 10 times and you're getting, instead of in the last 6 months just earning 10% yield, you would have earned 40% yield. So 40% yield is nothing to sneeze at. So a lot of people are doing this, and this is because Athena and Aave and Pendle are kind of all working together to make sure that this is relatively safe to do, and it's basically allowing the yield to be passed around. So if something is getting a higher yield, something's getting a lower yield, it's basically allowing people to get those yields closer in line to where they should be. And here's just a chart going back to the revenue for Athena. It's number 16 in terms of revenue. So that's actually huge in all of crypto. It's number 16. Obviously Tether and Circle number 1, then Hyperliquid, and then Athena all the way down there. But plenty of room to run considering that their TVL is exploding. Okay, so now let's talk about this digital asset treasury company that's coming for Athena. So what's happening here is a SPAC. If you remember those from 2021, there's now a SPAC for Athena. So SPAC company is getting taken over, a merger, and it's now going to be called Stablecoin X is the name, and I forget what the ticker is, and the ticker is going to be USDE. Basically what's happening, they're going to have $360 million ready to buy Athena. So what they're doing, I think they've already bought 100 million, and they're going to buy another 260 million of locked Athena from the Athena Foundation. So you're like, okay, they're buying locked Athena, that doesn't really impact price at all because those tokens aren't online anyway. But Athena Foundation is going to use that money to buy ENA on the open market. So basically what's happening, you can kind of skip everything. This digital asset treasury company, this SPAC merger called Stablecoin X, essentially is going to be buying 260 million of Athena on the open market, which is about like roughly 8% of the supply, maybe a bit less now because the Athena price has gone up. So people are basically, and this is what the investment case is right now, but people are basically front running this buyer. It's kind of like everyone saw like Michael Saylor's going to continue buying loads of Bitcoin. I'm just going to buy it all before him and he's going to top blast for me. Same thing happened with Ethereum. All these treasury companies came along, said we're going to raise a load of money to buy Ethereum, and Ethereum mooned into that. So that's kind of happening. That's kind of what is happening now with Athena. You can kind of front run this very large known buyer that is going to come in and buy like almost 10% of the supply of Athena, which is way more than Michael Saylor. I think he only has 2 or 3% of the Bitcoin supply, and you see how significant those buys have been on the Bitcoin price. And I think the Ethereum ones, I think they're going for about 10% as well. So that's one of the reasons Ethereum's been pumping so much. Okay, so wrapping up the bullish points and then a couple of bearish or risk points. Athena is now the third largest stablecoin. Stablecoin is the biggest narrative of this cycle, probably without a doubt. So it's exploding. The TVL is almost 10 billion. Looks like it's going to be up only. It's all throughout DeFi. It has this huge buyer coming in, a digital asset treasury company. It's going to be on, like, we know the crypto capital markets is pretty limited at the moment. Like all us millennials and Zoomers that invest in crypto on chain don't have much money, but the TradFi boomers they basically have all the money. So when something goes onto their rails, which is like, in their brokerage accounts, they have the money to actually drive these things up. So once that digital asset treasury company for a stable coin is live, where the TradFi boomers love stable coins, they want to be able to buy it in their brokerage that should be bullish for Athena, because yes, this company is going to go out and buy $260 million worth of Athena on the open market, but they're also going to do a MicroStrategy playbook. So obviously they're going to sell shares in order to buy more Athena if they become, like, if they get a premium over the amount of Athena that they hold, and they'll be doing all that kind of financial jiu-jitsu to sell bonds, I assume, in order to buy more Athena. I'm not sure about the bonds, but I assume if they get a big premium, they're going to sell shares to buy more Athena. So that's bullish for Athena. The bearish point is that it's already pumped quite significantly. It would have been nice. I actually did buy at 20 cent or whatever it bottomed at. I got the perfect entry on a leverage long and then cut it at like 30 cent, which in hindsight was kind of stupid. I saw all this coming and cut it early. So I'm not actually holding Athena right now. And I'm kind of on the fence whether to buy. Maybe I could buy a little bit, but it's already pumped quite a lot. It's already quite a high fully diluted market cap. On top of that, there was huge unlocks in March, so that's good, but there's going to be continual unlocks over the next few years from the VCs who funded into Athena. So for the next couple of years, the VC funding are going to be dumping Athena onto the open market, which, you know, is always bearish, especially in crypto at the moment, where like the crypto markets have a tough time to absorb VC unlocks, and any kind of like altcoin is just being smashed down significantly unless it's like Hyperliquid, which had no VCs. So Athena is definitely a VC coin, so there are a lot of unlocks to come, which is bearish, and there's another big unlock coming in the next week, in the next few days. $100 million worth, so almost 3% of the supply getting unlocked, so that's quite a big unlock. Obviously, other potential risk, which I don't see, is if funding rates drop across crypto. That would be like the Athena yield would go down quite significantly. I don't see that happening unless the cycle is over or unless there's like big crashes. So I think that's somewhat unlikely. And if the cycle's over, then Athena is going to go to zero regardless. So that's the risk with that. So am I buying Athena personally? I don't have a bag of it yet. I am interested in getting some. I do think it's going to continue running over the medium term, at least, with this digital asset treasury company and all the bullish points that I mentioned. So I am looking for an entry. I might just buy a little bit because I do kind of think we've missed potentially a good bit of the run. So the risk to reward isn't as strong. So I'm probably just going to try and open a leverage long on this, and maybe there'll be a little bit of a dump into the token unlock, and that would be a nice entry, something like that. But yeah, I am bullish on this for the cycle, and particularly for the medium term, up until this digital asset treasury company goes live. So really hope you learned something. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.